through that handbook for the recently deceased. It says, live people ignore the strange and unusual. I myself am strange and unusual.
Coming to you on the Paranormal UK radio network.
It's a strange hobby. Curious. Wouldn't it be better if you put her someplace? I've caused you some trouble.
The first Thursday of every month at 8 p.m. GMT and EST and 5 p.m. PST.
The female perspective on all things paranormal.
I'll buy a cup if you buy a box of my delicious Girl Scout cookies. Do we have a deal? Are they made from real Girl Scouts?
From the East Coast to the West Coast, across the pond and the world beyond.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
It's time for ParaDivas.
They're here.
Thank you for tuning in, and welcome to ParaDivas. I am Marie Samuels, and with me, as always, is Marianne Donnelly. How are you doing, Marianne?
I'm doing well. How are you today, Marie?
I'm fantastic. I'm very excited for tonight's episode. We have our debut guest, which you booked.
Yes.
And she is Rochelle Razzo, who is the manager of Haunted Hillview Manor.
Yes, in Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
Very excited to hear what she has to say. She'll be joining us in just a few minutes. Before we get the show started, I did want to apologize for the sound quality on Marianne's end on our debut show last month. This being a new show, of course, we're going to have a few things that we need to iron out over the first few episodes. So just bear with us. She'll be sounding much better during this episode, I promise. Say something so they believe me.
I was actually contemplating making a funny sound voice. But yeah, we'll try it out. We'll see how it goes.
I think it's going to sound a lot better this time. So before we bring the guest on, we found an article, I should say I found an article on higgypop.com that I thought was really interesting. So we're going to share that with you. It's the 10 most famous female ghosts, according to higgypop.com. So I'll let Marianne kick it off with number 10.
All right. Well, according to this article, the first one that we're going to talk about may or may not actually be real. It's actually the ghost of Christmas Past from of course, which story? A Christmas Carol, yes. So this one here, the Ghost of Christmas Past is generally portrayed as a female. It wasn't actually sure, according to the text, whether it should be a female or a male, but they seem to like to portray her as a female. So we will continue to do the same, and we'll take her, right, Marie?
Heck yeah!
Yeah. So the Ghost of Christmas Past from A Christmas Carol would be our number 10 most famous female ghost.
Number 9, they're calling her the Girl in the Fire. And the story is, in 1995, the town hall in the Shropshire town of Wem was completely destroyed by fire. What makes this story really memorable is a photo which was taken while the building was ablaze. It appears to show a girl standing amongst the flames. Locals believe the girl seen in the photo, which was taken by an amateur photographer, is the ghost of Jane Churn, a young girl who was accused of arson in that same town in 1677.
Ooh.
And for those of you who can't see the photo, this girl looks like she's about 13, maybe 14 years old. And yeah, can you imagine a 14-year-old girl being accused of arson?
And then to have her show up in a fire picture, 300 years afterwards? That's pretty interesting.
Right?
So I hadn't heard of her before, had you?
No,
All right.
There's quite a few in here I hadn't heard of.
Yeah, I agree. Which is interesting, because usually you hear about the females of anything because we're so rare.
Right.
So, anyways, she was definitely coming up in that picture. If that's really her, she was maybe tied to that fire as well.
That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she influenced the 1995 fire.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. All right. Anything else for her?
Nope.
All right, we'll head on to number 8 then, the Red Lady of St. James Park. Now, normally and traditionally, we always hear about the ghosts being the lady in white, the lady in white. This one actually is the lady in red. There's a small bridge on the lake in St. James Park in central London, and they often see a headless figure walking towards them near the blue bridge, and then she just vanishes. It's known as the Red Lady because she's often described as wearing a red dress or a red cloak, and sometimes she's even seen coming out of the lake, which is really super cool. But apparently they think that she might be the wife of a soldier who in the 18th century lured her into the park and murdered her. And why they really think it's her is after removing her head, making her headless, he attempted to dispose of her body in the lake, but actually didn't get a chance because he got spotted and arrested. So I don't know what happened to her body then because he apparently couldn't dispose of it properly. However, that's why they think it's her, is because she's headless.
Right. So now they talk about catching him disposing the body. I wonder if they ever recovered her head. I'm gonna guess not, and that's why she appears headless.
Yeah, and maybe she's still looking for her head.
Kind of like the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Female version of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, and maybe she's wearing a red cloak or a red dress because of all the blood from her missing head.
Right?
Instead of white, maybe it was white, but turned blood red from her dripping blood. I don't know.
That's a fantastic theory.
That's mine, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. I think it makes a heck of a lot of sense.
There you go.
All right, number 7 on the list.
Speaking of blood.
Right? This one's a pretty well-known one. It's good old Bloody Mary. Now, and we all know, I'm sure everybody's heard of Bloody Mary. For those of you who haven't, I don't know what to tell you.
They're under a rock.
We've all done. I know I did it as a kid, doing Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary is a very old ritual that dates back to an medieval witch by the name of Mary Worth. She was said to be a practitioner of black magic at the time when witchcraft was illegal. She was discovered and murdered for her crimes by her husband and her daughter. It was believed they slit her throat with a shard of glass while she stood in front of a mirror getting a glass of water. The witch now shows herself to those who call or summon Mary Worth. She will appear to you in a mirror as an ugly, haggard old lady covered in blood. They believe the game is dangerous, as the witch is said to be angry about her murder and will seek revenge on anyone who summons her. Some who have summoned her say they have scratches that have appeared on their body or face. Others, in rarer cases, say that the game results in the player being driven insane, dropping dead on the spot, or mysteriously disappearing, never to be seen again. Now, I didn't know Bloody Mary was based on an actual woman, and she was murdered not only by her husband, but also her daughter.
Interesting. We have definitely learned a little bit more about that childhood game then, right?
It's a lot darker than
anyone ever anticipated.
Absolutely. I mean, can you imagine, you're looking in the mirror, you're going to grab your water, and here's your husband coming up behind you, and I'm sure she saw it happen.
Well, yeah, she had to see him come up behind her in the mirror.
Oh, golly.
Maybe he was coming up all nice and happy. She thought he was going to give her a hug.
Or, put a nice new necklace around her neck. Oh, look what I bought you.
Yeah.
One-way ticket to the Mirrorland.
Yes. I don't know. So the next one on our list is actually the Tulip Staircase Ghost. And this one here, there's not really much of a story to her, except for that she appeared in a photograph in 1966. A former British Columbian priest took a photograph of the Tulip Staircase in the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich in 1966. And when they developed the film, it turned out there was a shadowy figure climbing the stairs, and nobody knows who she is. So. Yeah,
the photograph is really compelling. Because it was taken in 1966, so it's chances are it, wasn't
not very doctored,
right? And I don't. I'm looking at the photograph right now, and one of her hands seemed to be super extended up that rail, like almost too far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, we do know that they did fake photography since the invention of photography, but...
with the plasma coming out of the mouth.
That and even Mary Lincoln with Abraham on her shoulder. There was a whole movement of that type of photography. So that's interesting, but usually priests aren't going to be doing that. So considering it was a priest who took this, I'm going to say it was probably more real than not. But you're right. It does appear that her hand, the hand higher on the railing, is either way too extended or maybe not even hers. Because if you look at it, and if anybody gets a chance to actually look this up, you should. To me, it looks like it's the left hand of someone, because underneath the railing, it looks like maybe a thumb coming over the edge. So it's almost as if there's two. And if you look right to the left of that in the picture, it almost appears like you can almost see another face starting to show up there. So that's pretty interesting.
It is indeed. And you're right. That does look like a thumb coming out from underneath.
Mm-hmm. So it almost looks like it's not really her arm. So quite interesting. So I think we're starting to run a little bit close to short on time. Do you want to keep the top 5 for our next edition?
That's actually not a bad idea. What I think that's what we'll do. We'll keep the top 5, the big mamas.
Yeah.
For next month.
Okay. So we'll keep them hanging on, waiting with bated breath till next edition.
These are just the first 5, so these remaining 5 have to be even spookier. As we tick down the list of the most famous female ghosts.
Right.
And now we'd like to welcome our very first guest on ParaDivas, manager of the haunted Hillview Manor, Rochelle Razzo.
Hello.
Hello, Rochelle. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, it was actually Marianne that booked you, and thank you, Marianne, for booking such a wonderful guest.
Sure.
You don't know if
anytime.
I'm wonderful yet. Yeah.
Well, she told me some stories.
Oh, no.
What? What did I say?
No. Don't listen to anything she said.
Wow.
I'm just teasing. But she did warn me that, that you might have a foul mouth.
I said we got to make sure we remind her we're on the radio to be a good girl.
I will. I know how to control myself.
That's too funny. Well, thanks again for being our very first guest. This is, champagne bottle breaking stuff.
Where's the champagne?
I've got mine.
If I would have known this, I would have been ready for it. I would have had a bottle of wine ready.
And Marianne, your poison of choice?
I have a nice glass of water.
Actually, that's why.
So do I.
I'm kind of lame. I don't drink ever, so water is my choice. If I really go wild, I'll have like a lemonade or an iced tea.
I'm not a big drinker myself. I maybe 4 or 5 times a year I'll have a couple beers. That's about it. It's just not an appealing thing.
I plead the fifth. I don't drink every day, but when we go to events and have fun, yes, I do. I occasionally have a few.
Absolutely, and that's when I drink, for events or when my husband's band's playing, that's when I drink, but I don't come home every day and
no, neither.
Yeah. So, Rochelle, you're the manager of Hillview Manor.
Yes.
How long have you been the manager there?
5 years. It'll be 5 years. Next month, March, April, May. Yeah. I've been managing for 5 years. That's crazy. I just thought of that.
How did you get involved and become the manager?
I think they opened, I believe it was in like 2009, to paranormal investigation so that people could get in and investigate. And the woman that was doing investigations before me and running it, she rented the place, and I became friends with her, and I helped her out. So I was there a lot. I mean, our team went in and was investigating at least once a month. And then I'm not going to get into details, but it eventually came to the point where they asked me to manage it. And I agreed because I didn't want to see it get into the wrong hands. And it's been going really well since.
So is it like your day job? Or are you there through the whole week?
Okay, let me tell you something. It's a 24-hour job, actually. It's more like I'm an on-call type thing. The only thing that's stable is when I know groups are booked and I go there and I sit with them, like I sit at the building. But as far as my job is concerned, and people don't even come close to understanding how stressful, how dedicated you have to be, and how little money you make. I answer the phone every time it rings. All phone calls are directed to my cell phone. I work the website. I work the Facebook page, all the social media. I do all the booking. I answer the phone, and you would be surprised that people will call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Luckily, I'm up that time.
They're ready to go ghost hunting. They're like, I want to do it now.
Yeah. Well, they're late nighters, I get that. And I actually would rather get phone calls at like between midnight and 4 a.m., to be honest, because I'm sleeping at like 8, 9, 10 o'clock when they're calling, and I have to ignore the phone.
Because you've been up all night with a group at the facility.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to stay on that schedule because even if we only have a couple, groups booked a week, if I get off that schedule, it's really hard. So I'm pretty much, I sleep like from maybe 6 till noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon is my average time. So yeah, it's a demanding job. Like, you'd be surprised.
It sounds like it, especially with the odd hours, having to be available more in the middle of the night than during the day.
Well, it's not more. It's just that happens, So it's just a really weird job. Let's just put it that way. I don't think there's any other job like this. I don't think you could compare it to anything. Now, and I mean, the events today, today, I'm getting ready for our psychic fair coming up on June 2nd. And I just started getting a hold of people because the guy that usually helped us moved, and now it's kind of all on me for the psychic fair. So I'm calling everybody. I'm getting phone calls like crazy. I'm getting emails, trying to organize everything. And some days it's like as soon as I wake up until I go to bed, I'm working.
I can relate, except it's not paranormal, so it's not fun.
Yeah. You get burned out too with the paranormal stuff. Because, I don't know if you guys, well, I know Marianne has, but I'm not sure, Maria, have you been on investigations? Do you ghost hunt?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. So you know what they call that jet lag when you, or not, it's not, I guess a paranormal hangover, we call it.
Yes, absolutely.
Try having that constantly.
Yeah, that would be rough.
Yeah, you get used to it, and it's not like it is when you go to other places. I'm used to being at the same place all the time, and I'm not out investigating. But it can still be a drain, just being in the building.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a real grind, doing these investigations or organizing the investigations. And now, are you typically there while a team is in there?
Yeah, we stay in the office. We don't go out in the building unless, there's an emergency or we have to go retrieve them for something, but they know. Like, we wouldn't go out in the building without telling them. But, yeah, we sit in our office. We've never had any complaints about noise, so they don't really hear us. But my office is set up kind of like a living room. So I actually get more of a break at work than I do when I'm at home, which is crazy.
That is kind of crazy.
I know. It's just the strangest thing.
So what is...
But I absolutely love it. I love the people. I love meeting people, and it's so fun.
I would love to have a job like that. That's for sure. I mean, that's like the dream job.
You would think, yeah. From what the people see of me, it's a dream job. What the people can't see of what I do, it's not a dream job at all.
Well, everything,
and the money isn't.
Right?
But it's all about the love of the building and the entities and all that. It's not, if you're into this for the actual paranormal, that's what it's really, really about. And that's why you're still there.
Yes.
So.
Nobody is ever in this for the money because there's no money to be made. The hobby. I think I've probably spent more than I've ever made doing this, though.
Yeah, it's like teaching. You spend more than you make.
Yeah.
You're definitely not in it for the cash.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about Hillview for those guests who have not ever gone to visit Hillview. What are some things that they could expect while they're there? What's your favorite things about Hillview?
Well, the people are my favorite. The ghosts are my favorite. It's the energy itself. The building, if you've never been investigating before, I always say it's a great starter place because it's a great starter place, and then it's also not a great starter place. It's good for people because there's nothing really negative there. Yes, you get some negative stuff, but mostly it's just a really good feeling when you're there, and people just want to come back. And then I'd say it's not a good place to start because you get so much activity, then you go somewhere else and you don't get as much, you're kind of bummed out. But Hillview was a poor home, like a poor farm they called it, back when it first opened up, and that would have been in 1926. In 1977, it turned over into Hillview Manor, which was an extended care facility. So it was mostly indigent people. When it was the poor farm, it was people that needed a place to stay. We had mentally ill people there. We had ex-prisoners there. So it was used like a halfway house. And then when it changed to Hillview, it was just more of a extended care facility. It slowly transitioned over into the extended care facility. So there were still people there. When Hillview closed in 2004, there were still people there from when it was the poor farm.
Did
that
you
had lived there their whole lives?
Have a chance to speak with any of those people?
No. Most of them, like I've spoken to a lot of the people that worked at Hillview, but I've never had a chance to speak to anybody that worked there when it was the poor farm. And I mean, 1977, it would have been a little bit more harder to find somebody that was there when it was the poor farm, but I'm sure there's still some people still alive.
Well, I was referring to the ones that were there up until 2004.
No, I've never. Most of the people, there's only one person I know of that we speak of, like that we talk about at Hillview, and I believe he may have just passed away, but he could still be alive. I don't really want to bring his name up because he might still be alive, but there was also a nun that worked there, and she just passed away last spring.
Oh.
And so the ones that are still alive from when it was, actually the nun was from Hillview. It gets confusing. But it's just a mix of so many different people.
So,
like my neighbor worked there, and she just recently passed away too.
Sorry.
So
I'm not bringing you down. I'm sorry.
What do you think is, I guess, the most active area in Hillview? And is it, do you think, related to any specific individuals that may have worked there, or do you think that they're almost all patients?
I think they're most all past residents, like, patients and people that lived there when it was the poor farm. I do believe that we may have some people that worked there. You asked me, what was that first question you asked me? What the most haunted location in the building is. You know what? It changes. I can't pinpoint a certain area. The entire building is definitely haunted. It moves around, but I would have to say my two favorite spots are the West Wing, which we call Angela's Hallway, and the third floor tend to be the most active as far as noise. One North, shadow people. It's different. The whole building's different. The basement, sometimes you get a really cranky spirit down there. But people will see shadows down there, get sick down there sometimes. I personally don't have really great experiences down there. I have had some good ones, but it's not the most active place for me. Jeffrey's Hallway can get crazy active and then slow down. It just all depends. And I always tell people, come in with a positive energy. Don't come in a bad mood, tired, cranky, because they feed off of that and they'll be quiet. Like, if you come in with a really good attitude and you're happy and go lucky, and it just seems like it's more active in the building. So I think a lot of the energy that these groups bring in is also what helps the spirits there become active. It's just hard to explain. But being there 5 years, it's just, you get the sense, I can almost tell when a group comes in if it's going to be a really good night or if it's just going to be an average night. And I'm not going to point out groups.
I think your theory makes a lot of sense. Really, I mean, like you said, if you go in there and you're positive and in a good mood, they're probably more likely to approach versus someone that's shouting and demanding and,
Exactly. Yes. Right. Yeah. People that are like demanding and call them names and, try to do what they see on TV. Mm-hmm. This is not the place for that. Maybe there are places like that. I've never been like that when I go places. And I've always had really good luck with most locations that I've been to. And it's just kindness and respect. And it's no different than talking to someone you've never met before. You're not going to walk up to them and be rude and ignorant. You're not going to get anywhere with them. You want to be nice.
Yep.
And I just always tell people, treat them like, you would just treat anybody you're just meeting for the first time.
Now, I'm actually at the website hauntedhillviewmanor.com, and I'm looking at a picture of the building, and it is a lot bigger than I had imagined. I mean, I would almost compare this to Waverly.
Let me think. Been to Waverly.
Yeah.
I think Waverly might be, it's definitely bigger, but this is still very sizable in comparison. We're 83,000 square feet, give or take a couple thousand. I've heard more, I've heard less, but our blueprints say 83,000 square feet, which is it's a good size building. If you're looking from the front, it doesn't look nearly as big as it actually is.
Yeah, it's
you can hold 30
absolutely
people in
huge.
there comfortably. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you could have easily 2 teams, one on each side, right? And there would be no contamination between the 2 teams.
Yeah, we would never book 2 teams in a row. When somebody does a private, of course, they get the building to themselves. But we've had 50 people on an investigation.
Yes, I think that Dark Shadow Ghost Tours was one of your first largest groups that came through there, and we got 55 people along. I think between
and how did you
the guests and us. So it was not bad. We broke into I think 5 groups. We just went around to different areas of the building, different levels, and it worked out pretty well. You do have to watch, but for the most part, it works out pretty well.
Yeah, I would say 20 people is the average, like on our public investigations. We will go up to 30 or 40. So I always tell people, if you really want the privacy, book a private, because you're in control of how many people come.
Yeah, I would love to investigate it someday. It's very appealing to me. I can't take my eyes off of this building. And
it's funny because once you've been there, you feel like that too. You just want to keep coming back. It's like a home.
Well, and Marianne, you've been there several times, I believe.
Absolutely. I've lost count now. But we've been there. We've taken guests there, I think, 3 times, I couldn't tell you. And then we've booked it for just our group probably another Multiple 2 or 3 times. We've gone there for the paranormal fairs that you've had and pre-shows. We had a murder mystery dinner there. So we've been there quite a few times. We even played Human Clue in there.
Oh my gosh, that would be so fun.
Yeah, I did.
That was fun.
For their Halloween party a couple years back, we did Clue, and I put Clue character cards and everything. You know how you would get it in the Clue game, and I left them all over in the building, and then we had to go and get them from different places with clues and things, and like Rochelle said, everywhere in there has activity, and so I try to put it in like the most common areas where you would have activity. But one of those areas is the basement, and I have a terrible fear of basements. I think we kind of mentioned this in the premiere show. And I went around that building in the dark by myself. Well, they had all the people in the chapel doing their thing. They were doing another game or something, and I went through the building in the dark by myself, putting all this stuff out, and I was totally fine, except for the basement. I could not do the basement myself. I came back to the chapel. I'm like, I need you to come with me right now. I need you to come with me. And they're like, what? What's wrong? And I'm like, I just can't go in the basement myself. But it was pretty cool. The people seemed to enjoy it. But it was definitely fun, and there's a lot of space to go and traverse. So,
do you remember the murder in what room with what weapon?
I do not remember. We would probably, if I go back through the photos from the event, I would probably be able to tell you, but I don't really remember. Do you, Rochelle?
No, I don't. I don't think actually. I wasn't involved in playing that one. I mean, I remember people searching for clues and helping people, decipher things, but I don't remember exactly how you did that one.
Yeah, I don't remember the winner, but we had all the little clue cards everywhere, and we had it by the table. They each got their set, and they had to go out and find them in their places, and then they came back and they compared, what they had, what other people had, and they tried to figure out what was in the envelope that was up on the stage with us. So
That's fantastic. That is just an awesome idea. And I don't know. I just feel like it was Professor Plum for some reason.
I don't know.
I can't remember.
I can't remember at all.
I can't remember.
I remember I played Miss
We've
Peach.
gone to your dinners and you've had them things there. It's just all blurred together.
I know, right?
The Lizzie Borden one was the most fun for me. That trial that you did.
Yes, that was fun.
I love
That's
that
one of the ones I played Lizzie Borden in that one. And we had the trial in the chapel.
I actually played a part. Yes, that was fun.
Yeah. What part did you play, Rochelle?
I'm trying to think. I can't remember now either. I don't remember.
I think you were the maid.
I have the card, though.
I think,
yes, I was the maid.
Weren't you?
Because I had a maid
maid
costume, remember?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you played their family maid. So,
I did. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the one you did. So we obviously do more in Hillview than just ghost hunting. You do have a few other events there. You were mentioning that you were preparing for your psychic fair.
Yes, we had the psychic fair on June 2nd. We do a big paranormal convention. It's all things paranormal on June 2nd, or I mean September. I think it's September 22nd this year. That's like Bigfoot stuff, UFOs, cryptozoology, parapsychology, all different kinds of things we do for the HillCon event. And then we also have small events. If you check them on our website, like the photo scavenger hunt. We're going to do another movie night this year where we watch like an old movie and then investigate afterwards. There's different things. You know, just go to our website at hauntedhillviewmanor.com and you can check everything out. The public investigation page is the one that holds, if you click on that link, holds all the different cutesy events, like, you know, the fun events, hide and seek and all that.
All right, sounds good. So, let's talk about you. We talked about Hillview Manor a little bit. Let's talk about you. What's your favorite piece of equipment to ghost hunt with?
The recorder. I love EVPs.
Yeah.
I absolutely, that's it. The only thing, when I first started doing this, I had belts with equipment hanging off of it. I had, you know, the video recorder. I had, you name it. I mean, an EMF meter, K2 meter, thermometers, you know, the infrared thermometers. I had everything. Even DVR systems at one time. Now, all you will see me carrying around is a flashlight and a recorder. That's it. Usually the flashlight I carry is a Maglite. A lot of people are real skeptical of those as far as using those as ghost hunting tools, but I have had some of the best evidence with those. So a flashlight and a recorder, yeah. I have a DR60, so I'm kind of lucky to have one of those. The ones that Mark and Debbie Constantine used on different shows, and that's where it just kind of went crazy in the paranormal field. It's just a very sensitive recorder that you get tons of EVPs on, but they're kind of blurry and hard to understand, so you have to have an ear. When you listen back, you have to really pay attention. But, yep, recorders, flashlights, that's it for me. Honestly, I can go anywhere with nothing. I do it for me now. I don't try to prove it to anybody.
Well, and really, you can't. You could get EVPs,
no.
You know, but they can always say it's been altered, it was faked, it's contamination. So, you know, I don't know how anybody will ever prove the paranormal. I mean, we all have our experiences. We all get our EVPs. We all see our shadow figures, or we can even capture them on film. But you show it to someone, if they're a skeptic and closed-minded, or even not a skeptic, there's still that doubt that it's been fabricated.
I'm that way. I mean, when people show me pictures, it's not that I don't believe them. It's just that, I'm not there. I'm not there to witness it. So how do I know that's not a person standing down there, or that wasn't somebody whispering in your group, that you caught on the recorder? It's difficult. It really is. I don't know how anybody can prove it, and I feel the same way.
Yeah. Did either
I've
of
been
you
doing
see the ghost footage? I think it was from China on the CCTV ghost train footage.
I don't know if I've seen that or not.
It just came out recently. You should Google it when you get a chance.
I will. Yeah, I will. It's from China or Japan, or where'd you say it was from?
I think it's China.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out.
The first time I watched it, I was like, oh, that's photoshopped, And then I watched it again, and I'm like, that actually looks pretty old-timey. And no one's getting off or on the train. And it's completely transparent. It has real dim lights, not a big, giant light. And then when it pulls out at the end, it almost trails like smoke or mist where, the end of the train is. And the more I watched it, the more I thought, this actually might be the real deal. But
I always tell people to go by their feelings. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many videos that can be altered now, especially with the technology that we have. But sometimes you just watch a video and you're like, that has to be real. That it's just that feeling you get. It doesn't look altered, and you just know. So I'll watch it. I'll give you my opinion on it sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah. I'm so skeptical.
I usually, automatically, that's the first thing I do is, debunk. Like, how did they...
Yep.
Yeah. And then
when I first started, I was like, everything's paranormal. And then the longer you do it...
Yeah.
You realize, oh, wow, was I stupid? Or not stupid, gullible. I don't know what it is. It's just uneducated.
Yeah.
You learn as you go.
When you're just starting off too, you're very eager to get evidence. So, you get something, and it's something.
Yeah, it's always something. I know. So, I've been doing it 17 years, and I do remember when I started doing this. And I remember, the places we went and the things that we got. And then, so these newer groups that are just starting to come out, and they come in so eager, and everything seems paranormal. I hate busting their bubble. You know what I mean? I hate to say, hey, listen, there's a logical explanation behind this. But I tell them. I have to, because, and then sometimes I can kind of get they just think I'm trying to put them down or something when I'm not. I just don't want them getting false evidence and I don't want them to be gullible. I want them to know. One of our talks that we're doing, actually, Marianne, we're going to be meeting, we're going to see each other at Conneaut, the Psychic Fair in Conneaut. I think that's April 7th and 8th. Mm-hmm. Our talk that night is paranormal misconceptions. So we're going to actually talk on things that people get that can, be, I guess, misconstrued as paranormal evidence, like orbs, for instance. I've done so much research with orbs, and this is over the years. This is back when, I first started doing this. And I cannot prove that they're paranormal. I can only prove that they're dust, pollen, objects floating in the air, what have you. But I have seen orbs with my eyes. So it's hard to tell someone, you didn't get anything paranormal. It's rough. This field is very difficult.
Well, and a lot of, with the orbs, a lot of it's circumstantial too. If they're in a dusty environment and they just sit down on the couch and all of a sudden there's all these orbs flying around the room, that's obviously dust.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
if
a lot of people don't take that into account.
No, I know.
And that's what I try to tell people, I don't want them to think that that's paranormal.
Like, yeah, just, 50 ghosts just blew out of the couch when you sat down.
Well, they were all sitting there first. They didn't want to get squished.
I'm not kidding you, though. I remember the first time I've seen that on video and how I was like, whoa, it was in my house. And I guess somebody turned the ceiling fan on, and I just saw orbs flying everywhere. And I was scared to death because I just got my camera, and I'm like, oh, my house is haunted. We built this house. It shouldn't be. But I was scared. And then it started to dawn on me. I started doing testing, and, I can get different colored orbs. I can actually place orbs in different places and pictures. Just being very careful with dust and stuff. Yeah, we're not going to get into that right now. That's like a 3-hour show.
So what do you think then is your best piece of evidence that you've actually ever collected, or your best experience?
Oh, I hate this question.
Because we know it's not going to be an orb picture.
It's definitely not going to be an orb picture now. Although I have had some really cool ones, I'm not going to lie. I've had some really cool orb pictures. Like having a rainbow of orbs over my head right after I said somebody take a picture. I feel like there's something above me. And it was perfect rainbow. But I have a totally different theory to that. But anyway, I don't know. Evidence, EVPs are my favorite. Like I said, I have so many EVPs.
Do you have a favorite one? Something that stood out over the years? A favorite EVP?
Yeah, and it goes along with one of my favorite stories. So I'll just tell that one.
Yeah, let's do that.
We were in One North. We were in One North, and this is a very common story. You might have heard it on, I think it was Ghost Asylum when they aired their show. They talked about the gargoyle, and I will tell you right now that it was a one-time occurrence. Nobody else has ever seen it. It's not something that's, normally there. It's not evil. It wasn't. Yeah, it was frightening because it was something we've never seen before. But there was a group up by the nurses station at One North. We were just sitting there investigating, and Crystal, one of my tour guides, we started to walk, and Beth, one of my best friends, started to walk down towards the atrium, and we just felt drawn down there really strongly. So as we're walking down, we kind of stopped probably about 10 feet before we get to the atrium, and they took a picture behind us. And this is before we had our exit signs, so it was, dark. That hallway was pitch black. Somebody took a picture, and in that flash, we saw what looked like, I described it as an imp. She described it as a gargoyle, but we saw it. We never said one word to each other. We just turned around and took off running back towards the group. I'd say we got halfway to the group, stopped and looked at each other. They had their flashlights on us, like, what's all the commotion? And Crystal and I both put our hands up next to our head like ears, and we're like, whatever it was had ears. And I said, what did you see? And at the same time, she said gargoyle, I said imp. Well, I later found out that there was an Indian woman there, full-blooded Indian. She was a clairvoyant psychic. She said that she told me what I saw down there before. She didn't even know about it. And she said, you saw an Indian spirit guide, which kind of makes sense because, Newcastle's a prominent Indian territory. We've had several different Indian tribes. So maybe there was something negative down there, but that was protecting us. But it scared us because it's something, we've never seen before. So I'd say a couple nights later, and this is where I got my favorite evidence, we're all sitting in One North, and we had flashlights set up down the hallway, and we were talking to who we believe was a little girl. And she was setting off the flashlight. Everyone we told her to. We set out different colored ones, turn the red one on, she'd turn it on. We'd say, can you go in order? She'd go in order. She'd come back in order. It was just insane. And then we had one of those REM pod bears sitting there, and she was making that go off like crazy. Touch the arm, she'd touch the arm. And at one point, I pulled out my recorder, and I'm sitting there, and I said, you're welcome to come sit on my lap. And although I didn't feel anything, on my recorder, I got good morning, very clearly.
Wow.
And I proceeded to ask, what was it that we saw a few days ago down at the end of 1 North? And you hear the little girl clearly say, it was the monster. Just like that.
Wow.
Well, I'm not saying that it was a monster, because I really don't believe that. But to a little girl, and to us when we saw it, that's what we would have described it as. So a lot of times I think that people are saying things and they think that it's something evil when it's really not. It's just not familiar.
When I think imp, I think of a short creature. Was it short?
It looked like a gargoyle. It really did. I don't know why I said imp, because when she said gargoyle, I 100% agreed with her. Like a short, fat
troll,
but with wings. To me, it looked like it had wings. Well, see, gargoyles kind of look like trolls to me, I guess, in a way. It's like what you would see at the top of a building, you know?
Interesting.
But it had wings. Or ears. I don't know, because all we could see was its profile. And it had depth, but you couldn't really make out, like, features. So it was really hard. But, like, the shape of it, the size of it, I would have to say would have been, like, maybe 2 to 3 feet wide. And it was probably only about 3 to 4 feet off the ground, like high.
Right.
I mean, it was sitting on the ground like a bloop. You know, that's how I picture it. Bloop, just sitting there. And there were like wings or something protruding from its sides, like from the back. So you saw the head, then you saw these 2 sharp points coming up on either side of its head, like wings or ears. I don't know. I don't know. But to have that little girl's voice clarify that so clearly, and I mean, it was crystal clear. It was Class A EVP. Crazy.
That's awesome.
And the Native American woman, she thought it was a spirit guide.
The psychic that we had spoke to, the Indian woman, yes, she said it was an Indian spirit guide, and they actually look a lot like a gargoyle. I've never heard of that. I've never looked it up. I just kind of went with what she said.
Right.
So
yeah.
I should do some research on it, but I didn't want to. I wanted to think it was something good. So,
well, spirit guides.
I always tell people, like, go ahead.
Spirit guides are good, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's why I wanted to believe what she said, and I didn't want to think it was anything but that. So that's why I always tell people, go in there thinking good things. Like, you're going to encounter really good, fun spirits and stuff, and you should. But if you go in there with a dark mind, I think you can create things. I honestly think we've brought things to life, or like negative energy can come in when you're there. Like if you're in a foul mood and you can bring negative energy with you, and negative things can feed off of that, and they can transform themselves into whatever scares you. I just have that sense. Can't prove anything. Like everything's theories, but yeah, I'd have to say one of them were crazy stories, at least at Hillview. The best one would be at Mansfield. It was my very first apparition story. 2 of us experienced that as well, and it was just it didn't have a shape. It didn't look like a person. It was just this big round ball of, it looked like a piece of, like a bag on the wind, the way it moved, like a grocery bag on the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And it just went back and forth in front of us like it was trying to avoid our flashlight, and then it shot up the steps in front of us and out of sight. And I'll still say to that day that was my favorite experience, because it was my first real good one. And then the rest all happened at Hillview.
It's interesting that you mentioned that one, because when we were there with one of our groups a couple years back, I was up on, I think it was either the 2nd or the 3rd story of the cell blocks, and Sean was down below, and he saw a black mass kind of race across in front of him up in there. I'm gonna say it's probably in one of the same areas. There's only 2 of the main cell blocks, so it had to be one or the other. And just after that, we had a woman who she literally freaked out because she swore something grabbed her and pulled her into a cell. And we couldn't get her down. It was horrible. Her husband and I, we were like walking her down these rickety stairs of the cell blocks because she was like staunchly staying. She's like, I can't move, But it's interesting that you had a similar, black mass type thing that was.
It wasn't actually black. It wasn't actually black. It was like a grayish.
Okay.
It was like a mist, and it had a black center, which was strange. And it was actually in the warden's quarters.
In which one?
It wasn't in the cell block.
Oh, it was in the warden's
quarters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when you said something pulled a woman into a cell block, we had a group that we were there, and we were walking in like a single file line because you really can't walk side by side.
Yeah.
Up on the tiers, but Wendy, one of our old group members, was in front, and we were just walking along, and she said it felt like something clotheslined her. It hit her in the chin. She said it felt like a really cold, hard hand hit her in the chin, and she flew backwards, and to us it was like the domino effect. It was crazy. So, and that would have been, like, if you're looking at the building, it would have been on the right side, and I think we were on the third tier.
Yeah, that's correct. That's where ours was. It was either the second or third tier, so
that's crazy.
And I think we were up to the third already, but it was either the second or third tier. But you're right, that's the same side of the building. Very interesting. Very interesting.
And that was my first time I ever saw a doppelganger. Was at Mansfield too. We've had them. We've had doppelganger voices, I guess, like at Hillview, but I've never actually seen somebody that worked there or has been there. I've never actually seen somebody that wasn't there. You know what I mean? But at Mansfield, we saw Scott, one of the tour guides there, and he was walking towards us on the tier and then just gone. And that was the same time Wendy got hit in the mouth, like in the chin with the hand, because we were watching him and we were moving for him, and then he was just gone. We took off after she got hit. We took off downstairs, and he was coming from the other side, the other wing with a group. So he was not up there with us, which was really creepy.
Yeah, intriguing.
I could go on and on with the stories. I mean, like 17 years of this. I've had so many experiences. And I'd say, some you could write off, but some you just can't.
Marianne, you've done investigating at Hillview. What would you say is your best piece of evidence that you got there?
We've actually done a lot better there with flashlight sessions than we've ever had, I think, anywhere really else. Flashlights work really well there. But mine, I would say, would be in Mary Virginia's room. And we did a flashlight. We had a flashlight sitting there, and we were singing to her because she was, we were told that she was, a very childlike adult. And so we said, well, let's sing some nursery rhymes to her. So, of course, we started singing nursery rhymes, and I apparently really suck at nursery rhymes because I can't remember any of the words. I don't have little people around me, so I couldn't remember them. But I think it was Three Blind Mice we were singing, and the flashlight came on, and we're like, oh, did you really like that one? And so we talked back and forth, and we had her turn them on and off, that kind of thing, for a while. And then we asked if she wanted us to sing some more, and the light came on. But it was just really cool. Every time we sang Three Blind Mice in there, the lights just on the flashlight, it's like never fail.
You didn't know, Marianne, about the Three Blind Mice thing?
Oh gosh, what's the Three Blind Mice thing?
Oh, this is kind of cool. It's just kind of confirming your story. Before I started managing there was a group that was there, and they got an EVP of, it sounded like a record playing Three Blind Mice.
Whoa,
and it sounded
really?
like one of those metronome things clicking that...
Yeah.
Those things that click to music, going back and forth. Mm-hmm. And it sounded like an old record of Three Blind Mice playing in the background. You could hear it clear as can be.
That's super cool.
And then you said that, and I'm sitting here like, don't say anything, let her talk. that I've got chills all over me.
Wow, that's awesome.
And yeah, and the flashlights, you are right. In her room, that's the first time I've ever watched a flashlight actually spin on the ground. Like it moved. We've had them rock back and forth, like sitting upright, straight up and down. We've watched them rock. So yeah, her room is really good for flashlights. So is Mary Aiello's on the second floor, across from Jeffrey's. It's just, Hillview's amazing. I'm not saying that because I work there, honestly. It is my favorite location, always has been.
Now, see, that was going to be a question I was going to have for you. What was your favorite place that you've ever ghost hunted at? So you kind of have said that Hillview is officially your favorite, but if it was someplace other than Hillview, what would be your number 2?
Mansfield. Because I was there so much. You know, it was like before Hillview even came into play, we did Mansfield, and we were there constantly, and we cleaned, and we put our blood and sweat into that building at first. But I had my best experiences there too. But now more recently, since I've gone back, I can't say that. I don't go back anymore. Things have changed there a lot. I don't, like they used to have like the break room out front, like it was a building, and they took that down. And I understand why they did it. It was to go back to the way it originally looked, because that was built later, I think maybe in the 70s. So they wanted to make it look more historical. But see, I think that's where they're gearing towards more of updating the building to make it look more like it did back then, which is great. I love that. But the activity just doesn't feel the same to me there. I've been there probably the last 3 times I've been there. It wasn't the same. But I don't know, that might be because Hillview doesn't like me other places now. I swear that building, I'm not kidding you, it doesn't like me going other places.
It's like a puppy, right? You know, you go, you see another puppy, you come home, and it's like, excuse me, where have you been? I'm not going to get into detail about that, but I swear that happens. I mean, it's like sniffs me down, and it's like, what happened? Where were you? What did you do? But yeah, I still do go other places. Like we're going to Madison, I think in April, Madison Seminary. I've never been there yet. I haven't been there either, but I think we're going in July. So you'll have to give us some tips.
Oh, cool. Compare notes. Yes, we'll compare notes. We're also speaking at Gettysburg Battlefield Bash. Jim Backus and myself are both doing the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash on August 17th through the 19th, and we're talking about Hillview, and then that Conneaut Psychic Fair on the April 7th and 8th. So you guys, if anybody's listening, come on out, listen to our talks, get together, because we're going to be there all weekend, and I'm up for talking to anybody.
Sounds awesome. I love Gettysburg.
I do too. And this is supposed to be Gettysburg Battlefield Bash is for at the fundraiser for veterans. Oh, it's not a paranormal thing, but they're going to have a lot of paranormal things going on there.
There's always a lot of paranormal things going on there, scheduled or not.
It is. It doesn't matter if you're even there ghost hunting. You'll have experiences. It's fun. I love that place. The history. Oh. All right. Okay. I changed my mind. It's not Mansfield. It's Gettysburg.
Mansfield was third.
What's that?
It just got bumped.
Yeah. But see, Gettysburg isn't one exact location. It's like
I know
everywhere.
There's so much there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there's so many other little places like Bell Nursing Home. I love that place. It reminded me so much of Hillview. That's probably why. The Prospect Place. I love that place. I probably think I've been there like 3 times, and every time it never disappointed me. We always had something good happening. And like I said, it could be the groups I go with. You know, it's just a good energy. We all are good friends, have a good time. And because I've had other people say, "Oh, I've been there, nothing ever happens there." I've had people say that about Hillview too, but
Well, I agree with you on the it depends on who you're there with, because we've been, as we talked about earlier, we've been to Hillview a lot. It's the place we've been to the most. And depending on who's there that night, you know, sometimes you get a lot of activity and sometimes you get like nothing. It really does depend on who's there. Are they you know, happy to see these people, or are they going to be like, yeah, okay, I'm done with you, I'm going to sleep for a while? So
yeah, it's rare to get people. I mean, the paranormal field, I would have to say 99% of the people in the paranormal field are wonderful people. I mean, they're just very loving, open, friendly, but then you get that little bunch that just, drama. And they start things, and I am not about that, you know. And that's another thing too, is I'm not, even though I run a building, I'm very open with the other buildings. Like, oh yeah, you should go visit this place. Oh, I love this place. Go to this place. You need to try them all. You know, I've been to all these places. I'm not going to mouth off to the, you know, if I didn't have a good night, I didn't have a good night. That has nothing to do with the building.
Yeah, the
Because
ghosts aren't going to come out on
stuff every
cue
time.
just because you're there.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
They
And
all
I might be in
need
a
a vacation too.
law
Maybe
mode.
they went on vacation that night.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I guess paranormal unity is the word I'm looking for. I always tell other locations, give me your cards, give me your brochures. We'll put them at Hillview. We'll try to get you business too. You know, I'm not going to be like, oh no. And there's some places that are like that.
Unfortunately, yes, there are.
Yeah.
So now, are there any documented deaths that you know of that occurred at Hillview?
Yeah.
I imagine there's quite a few.
We're estimating approximately 10,000 people. So,
well, in the pictures,
of course,
I see
because
graveyards.
Go ahead. The graveyard was only from the poor farm.
Okay.
The graveyard itself was, we found like a ledger. It's kind of a little bit complicated, but we found a ledger of the burials back there from, I think it was like the mid-1930s to the mid-1950s. And I know there was well over 400 back there as far as that ledger is concerned. There could be more. And I'm not sure because that's the only ledger we had. But a lot of the documentation, of course, when they sold Hillview, was taken out. There were a lot of things left behind, and that's what we go on. So whenever we give estimates, because we don't have exact numbers, we're going by the death records that we found there. You know, there's like not certificates, but they're like little pieces of paper with the deaths on it. And we took that, and all we have that is from the poor farm that were left behind. So we'll count those, and then I think we had like 3 years worth of it. We multiplied those by the number of years the building itself was open. So we're coming to an estimate of 10,000. You know, that could give or take a couple thousand. I don't know. Same with the square footage. So, but there were a lot of deaths, and there are a lot of like documented deaths in the newspapers and stuff where like somebody jumped off the roof. I heard a doctor jumped off the roof. I'm not sure if we have documentation on that one, but like there was somebody that jumped off. We always said it was the third floor and landed in front of the front doors. And then the death record says he was on the second floor. So we're not really sure exactly which floor he jumped from. We had somebody hang themselves on a tree at one point when it was the poor farm. Then we have funny stories about like one of the patients dumped a urinal on an orderly from his upstairs window. The orderly was downstairs out in the yard, and he dumped his urinal on his head. Nurses' records, that's where we get some of this stuff from.
That is funny.
Good.
I'm sorry.
There's a lot of funny stories. And I'm not really focusing because, like, we could talk for hours about Hillview, but, like, Jimmy Marker is one of our more popular people there. He was there from the time it was a poor farm until Hillview closed. He actually died 2 years after Hillview closed. So I'm not sure where, but we do have his death record. So he was on the 3rd floor, but he had free run of the place. He was a character, and a lot of people get a lot of evidence from him. Like Mary Virginia, that Marianne was talking about. She was a patient there. She actually didn't die at Hillview. She died at Edison, which is another nursing home in Newcastle. And we believe she came back because the woman that took care of her the last few years after she left Hillview, Mary Virginia would always complain about wanting to be at Hillview. She wanted to go home. She wanted to come back to us. But, you know, she couldn't because we were closed down. So I think she came back. Her energy is there for sure. We get EVPs from her all the time. Jeffrey, which...
Murder?
What's that?
What about murder? Was there any murders that occurred on the property?
There was a deemed suicide where a guy supposedly stabbed himself with a pair of garden shears 30 times.
Oh.
So, I don't see how that's even possible. I know that was a murder, but they buried a lot of stuff, so they would, you know, say, oh, it was a suicide. Like, for instance, John Robinson, the one that supposedly fell out of the window and landed in front of the front doors, they said that he jumped. I just never accepted the fact that he jumped. And I was drawn to his room. This is the 3rd floor, so maybe he was on the 5th floor. I don't know, but I was drawn to that room for so long, and I'd lay in his bed. There was a bed in that room. And I'd lay in the bed. I'd fall asleep. But I was always asking on my recorder, did you jump? Why did you jump? And I got an answer one time where he screams into my recorder, did not jump, was pushed out the window. So that's another good one, too, I forgot about. So, yeah, I mean, the EVP is insanity. I was by myself when I got that recording. So there were no other people in that room or with me. So, you know, it was an EVP, you know?
Right, yeah.
So you can only go by the people, you know, what the people say. You can't really... You'd have to believe me to believe the EVP.
So is there a morgue in the building?
No. Actually, we do have an embalming room. So the people that are buried out back are not all from Hillview. There are some, but the cemetery itself was I'm stuttering because I'm getting feedback. I was hearing myself talk there for a second. Sorry. The cemetery out back was used more as a poor cemetery, like the poor farmhouse, people that were poor and needed a place to stay. That was used for people that didn't have burial spots or paid. These are people that were, most of the people buried in the cemetery are John Does or Jane Does. They were found throughout the county, like found on the railroad tracks, found on the side of the road. I think it's like 23 babies buried back there that were found throughout the county. And I don't know if they were all found. They were, you know, some of them said that they were found like in the woods and stuff, but then others are just marked as death records. And if it was the poor farm, I mean, people could have very well, you know how they would send women away to have babies back then because it was a shame to be married, you know, pregnant out of wedlock. They'd send women away to have babies. I don't know what they were doing with those babies. You know, so some of those babies could have been, you know, stillborn, or they could have killed them after birth. I don't know. But a lot of babies were buried back there. So, yeah, a majority of the people in that cemetery weren't even from the poor farm or from Hillview. Well, they weren't from Hillview because the cemetery stopped burying people back there, I believe, in the 1977 when it turned into Hillview. It was the last. I think that's the last stone back there. The last dated stone is 77. And in the 60s, they were just wrapping people in the embalming room. They were just embalming them and then wrapping them in plastic and throwing them in the ground. And they were burying people 3 to 4 people deep. They were mass burying them. And I think it was in the 1960s, there were 2 hunters that were coming across the property, and they came across an arm and a leg sticking out of the ground. And, that led to an inquisition about how the county was burying the dead. And they had to start burying them the proper way. And after that, there are stones back there now. So they were burying them in pine boxes with stones. And there's not very many. I think we have 29 ground level markers back there. So those were all burials after the 60s.
Wow.
And then in 77 they quit. So there was no one buried back there from Hillview that we're aware of.
That's just insane.
Yeah.
It's a total Potter's field.
Yeah. Yeah, it's... And then in Hillview also, the Poor Farm had a darker history too. I mean, they don't talk about it. We don't have records of it, but we've heard rumors. Rumors that people were mistreated and that they were using patients as experiments. And this is the one that I heard the most recently. We had a group filming there, and he had done research on different locations. And he was actually researching a place in New York when he came across our name, Hillview Manor. And what they were doing was they were vaccinating children and using children in poor farms as guinea pigs for vaccinations to see how well they worked. And if they would just keep pumping these children full of vaccines until either one of them died or they got sick and they had to nurse them back to health, but they were using them as guinea pigs. And Hillview was on the list of the testing for vaccinations. And I don't have record of that. This is again, hearsay. I believe it. This guy was very, very serious. He had no reason to lie to me. He goes, but yes, I found Hillview's name in that list.
So
and that would have a lot.
Was it as Hillview Manor or as the Poor Farm?
I think it was the Poor Farm. But it would have been called Lawrence County Home back then. I call it Hillview no matter what.
Yeah.
He found Lawrence County Home.
Okay.
If I'm remembering correctly. Marianne, you'd like to do research, don't you?
I do.
See if you can find anything.
I'll see if I can.
I just don't have the patience for it. I'll start, and I've found so many death records, and then I quit. And then I don't get back to it. And then I start talking about, I really like to know this. I really want to research it, and I don't do it. But I do have other people that will bring me stuff, like Mary Barber. She does research, and she's given me some death records that we never had. I know Laura Graymelt and Melanie Vincent were doing some research on stuff, and they got things for me before. So, yeah. If you want to do some research, do it. See if you can find anything on the vaccination.
I'll have to look into it.
That one was... I just found that out at the end of last year. So, we just got back to work now. And I completely forgot about it, so I started telling you about it.
The vaccination.
I'd really like to know. What?
The vaccination story?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'd really like to know if that were true. And Poor Farms themselves had a dark history of experimentation on people. Now, whether or not they did it at Hillview, we have no proof, but
it was kind of part
they did it
at the time.
Yeah. And they're indigent people. These are people that didn't have family.
Right.
They didn't have family. They didn't have friends. Easily could go missing without anybody even noticing. And, another thing in that book of the cemetery burials, there were people, and in there it said, brought into the Poor Farm. And then 3 days later, they were dying from a fractured skull. And there were several instances of that in there. And I'm thinking, how did they die from a fractured skull? Why is it not saying did they fall? It's not saying why they died from a fractured skull. They just died from that. And I'm thinking, okay, is that in case they pull these people up and see that their skull's been tampered with?
I
don't know.
Lobotomy. Maybe they were attempting lobotomies and clanking the spike too hard.
It's possible. There's no record that they did lobotomies there. I have never come across anything about lobotomies. But I don't know if they'd even make that public. I think they would have kept that secret because a lot of that stuff was experimental.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, you can assume a lot of things about these places, but unless you have the proof sitting in front of you, you really don't want to say, oh, well, this is what happened, because you don't know. And so I'll tell people, what my opinion is, but I'm not going to tell people facts that aren't true. Yeah, that happened, but it didn't really happen.
I'm just speculating.
That's like with...
another thought I had was maybe they were just at capacity and they didn't have room, and so they just conked them on the head with a hammer.
I mean, it's possible.
You're
I don't know
morbid.
why they wouldn't just boot them out to the curb.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're
Let's just
full.
bonk this one on the head. We're full.
Oh my goodness.
Wrap them up in
I don't know.
Oh.
Oh my.
Who knows? But to me, that just sounded fishy. We don't have the proof or the reasoning behind it. It's just fishy.
No, I agree with you.
Because you're going to a
school for no reason. They didn't elaborate on how the skull was fractured, and there was multiple cases.
Yeah, and you're brought there. It's a safe haven for you to go, somewhere to stay, because you don't have anywhere else to go. But then you're dying from a fractured skull. I mean, I'm sure there were fights. There may have been fights there. There may have been,
Mm-hmm.
animosity between the people staying there. Maybe they were fights. I don't know. I really don't.
Good possibility as well. Yeah.
There was another poor farm, and somebody was telling me about that. They uncovered like a secret room in the basement that it was a torture room.
Oh.
There was when they knocked in one of the walls. I wish I could remember who told me. It was one of my friend Jamie and Jenny's. It was Jamie and Jenny's friend. I can't remember her name, but they it was an old poor farm, and somehow they realized there was a room on the other side of this wall. They knocked the wall in, and they happened to see a gurney, like a table, like an operating table, that had something on it with a sheet over it. So they immediately called the police, but it wasn't a body. It was just like equipment and stuff that was under the sheet. But there were chairs with shackles above the chairs. So people were put in chairs and then shackled to the wall.
Right.
Now, if that's a poor farm, that's not something normal. That should not have been there. And it was a surgical room because they had the surgery table and medical equipment in there. And
Right.
Why was it buried? Why was it cemented, like blocked over?
Hidden. Yeah.
I still swear I'm going to find a hidden room at Hillview. I pound it. They laugh at me all the time because I'll hear a hollow spot in the floor, like beneath like our office area and stuff, which is the old part of the building that was the poor farm.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be walking and I'm like, this is hollow. There is nothing under me. And then I'll stomp in a big circle and I'm like, this is a pretty good size. It could be a well. There's just...
So what you're saying is when we come in there and you've ripped up the carpeting and you have a hole dug in the floor...
It's not going to be
You're just
dug. I'm
checking
going to
it
have
out.
to bring in a jackhammer. Yeah, I'm going to have to bring in a jackhammer. That floor's thick.
Oh,
But yeah, I swear there's hollow spots under the floors.
Interesting.
We do have a tunnel under there too for all the gas lines and stuff, but I've never braved up and gone down there. I know that
You got to do it.
yeah, I'll come
no,
with
I'm
you.
not. No.
I'll come
no,
with.
bugs, no.
I'll come
Nope,
with.
nope. No.
Not even.
I've seen it because somebody went down there before with picture with a camera. So I've seen it, but I'm not going down in there.
Is that why you won't go down there? Because you saw the photographs?
It's just dingy. I just don't. Nah. I don't like small spaces. I'm afraid I'd get stuck down there or something. Like, one of my fears is, like, buried alive. And I shouldn't be saying that because then somebody's going to kill me and try to bury me alive.
Oh, no.
Oh.
No, they're going to conk you on the head with a hammer.
Yeah, I'd rather have that. I'd rather have that than be buried alive.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, but that's interesting. I would be curious to see what was down in there and where it led to. And Who knows what you might find?
It's real tight. It's a really tight squeeze. They're not like tunnels like, that you can walk through. They're tunnels that you actually have to like slither through.
Oh, yeah, no, then I'm out. Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Marianne, are you still down?
I don't know. I don't like to get too dirty. So if I have to slither around, I might get more dirty than I expect and want to, but,
I like to be able to make a quick
I don't like dirt either.
So, yeah, being on my hands and knees in a tunnel, that's dicey.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, at least you got to see photographs.
Yeah, some, and I can't remember because it's been so long. But I know, like, that elevator that's in the lobby when you first come in, one of those, like, narrow tunnels leads to underneath that, under the elevator, which doesn't work. And we have it blocked off so people can't get on it because I don't want it to fall and hurt anybody.
Yeah.
What floor is the elevator on? The first floor, ground
floor?
We
we have like one of those old elevators that has like the gate that you slide, the slides open and then the doors come open, and that's in the lobby, and it goes to the second floor, I believe. Oh, and the third floor. And then we have newer elevators from when it became Hillview that goes from the basement all the way to the third floor, but none of the elevators are accessible. They're all shut down. So I wish we could get them working, but it would cost a fortune, and then you have to have them inspected constantly, and trust me, we don't make enough money to do that. We're trying to save the building by the owners trying to put sections of new roof on it because it's so bad right now. So I would say a majority of the money we make right now is going into fixing the roof, and paying the bills and the taxes. People think it's a profitable business. It really isn't. It's not at all. You just barely, you make enough to just keep the building going pretty much.
I couldn't imagine what property taxes would be on a building that size.
I don't know what they are, to be honest, and I don't care. I don't want to know. I don't want to know because I don't want to feel so bad for the owner because she's trying. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but it was a sister and brother that were running it, and the brother passed away last winter, and she's really doing her best to keep this going for us. I'm surprised. I was really worried that she might just give up on it because, it's hard. But she's doing the best she can for this place, and we need a new roof on that entire building. It's starting to really leak. We're getting we went in from winter, and there's just down tiles, ceiling tiles, and the crumbling of the plaster that's on the walls. It's just bad. And leaks everywhere. And she had a new roof put over the chapel, and she's going to try to do a section a year now. At least, just the part over the chapel was, I think it was $18,000, and it was only half that hallway in the chapel. It's, you would not believe how expensive it is.
18 G's?
So, for one little tiny area. That wasn't even like probably a 20th of the building for all the floors and the roof that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So, luckily we have the most wonderful, wonderful volunteers. I wish I could name them all by name, but I'm not going to forget one, and so I'm not saying anything. But they're friends. They're like my best friends. They're volunteers, and they do so much for Hillview. It's just, if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be there. If it weren't for them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do because they help out so much. Cleaning and just working and doing the events and everything else.
Yeah, you've got a pretty good crew out there. I will agree with you there.
I do.
Yeah. They've
Some
got
of the most
great
wonderful
personality.
people in the world.
They're hard workers. They like to have fun. They do a good job.
Yep. Amazing people. And that's why I think Hillview is so active, is because everybody loves that building, and it's a loved building. It's got a good feeling. It's just amazing. It's home. I can't. I'm not going to lie. There's been times that it's like, I can't do this anymore. But I always pick myself back up and I'm like, you can do this. Because I can't disappoint the building. I can't disappoint the people in it, you know, and the people that come there. Notice I didn't even call them ghosts, the people in it. Their family, the building, it's like the building is alive itself. But I hope we're not boring anybody.
No, not me.
It's a passion. It's crazy. Any other questions, you guys?
I have
'Cause
questions.
I know Marianne's
Do you
probably
have
getting
questions?
really tired.
I have questions.
You go ahead.
Okay.
All right. So, do you prefer hunting alone, in pairs, or as a team?
Pairs. I'm too afraid to hunt by myself. I will go certain areas in Hillview if I know that somebody's fairly close. But I guess one of my fears is seeing something by myself. I have the best, like, I've always got backup. Every time I've ever experienced anything really good, I've had other people with me to back it up. Pairs is probably my favorite, but I will go in small groups, but I will not go in large groups.
What's the largest group that you would go in?
Four. Like, as far as moving around, like, I'd go into a building with more people, but I'm not going to hunt in a little group. You know, I'm not going to hunt all, like, if we've got 20 people at Hillview, you know, I'm not going to sit with all 20 people in one north, although we have. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying, I just don't prefer to. Mm-hmm. I would say 4 at the max. 2 is my favorite. Alone, not really. No. Like, we had that quarantine night last year. I don't know if you were aware of that. We had a quarantine night where we were sending people off in the building by themselves.
I
wouldn't have done it.
Reading something about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that.
How long
people
did
it, and they were so good. We were putting in locations 10, 15 minutes because we had a lot of people and we had to get through it, but they did really well. And you know, not all of them were completely alone because we had some of them were being filmed. But Joe, I don't know if you know Joe Pieri.
The name?
Yeah, Paranormal Crossroads.
I don't know him.
Paranormal Crossroads Live. Mm-hmm. Well, he's an amazing guy. I mean, he's such a sweetheart. He'll do anything for us. But he walked around and filmed some of them. But he wasn't allowed to talk, react, nothing. He could just film them. So they weren't all completely alone. But they were getting some good stuff. Awesome. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to have to do that one again this year. I forgot about that one. Yeah. And then what we did with the people that weren't on the quarantine, we were all in the lobby and we got to watch the people that were in quarantine.
That's
while
fun
we were
too.
in the lobby. Yeah. I want to do a match game this year too.
A match game?
Yes. Did you remember the old match game? Like, the old match game was like in the 1970s, where they asked, like they'd ask a question. I can't remember the host's name, but there was like 6 people and they would ask a question, and then the 6 people on the board, like the panel, would answer it but not show their answer, and then there were 2 guests, and the one guest would have to pick the best answer to finish the question. Like so-and-so, I can't remember a good question.
I do not remember this.
I know
like,
what you mean now.
Oh
Sophia
gosh, look it up.
was to dinner and she forgot her blank.
Yes. And then you fill in the best blank, and then they see how many, like the one person would answer it, and then they would get the panel, and whoever's matched, they would get a point for that. I want to do that at Hillview with like Hillview questions and paranormal questions.
That'd be fun.
It would be fun. And then film that and like air it live.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think it would be fun.
Yeah, I've watched that old show, and they came up with some pretty clever answers.
Yeah.
They had they had a celebrity panel that would, fill in the blanks, and then the two contestants would, pick the one that they thought was the best.
Yeah, like actually Richard Dawson was on that show.
Yes.
That Charles Nelson Riley.
Betty
people.
White, I think, was on there quite a bit.
Betty White.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and she was a naughty.
Yeah. I love her. I absolutely love her. And she loves the animals, so that just makes me love her even more.
She's awesome. And it's great to see her in her younger years, and being sassy and
yeah. She's just as awesome in her older years too. I mean, she's an amazing woman.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. You're gonna have to do that for sure.
Yeah, I know. And Joe had mentioned something about doing something. I think he wanted to do like the dating game. I kind of want to do the match game, so I'm going to see if he'll get on board with me and film that. So that would be fun. And I know we can twist something paranormal into that, where people can have to go into the building or whatever. We'll figure something out.
All right.
I think you could get paranormal in there good enough. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I think people would probably also have fun with it too, and you'd probably get some pretty funny answers.
Oh yeah, it would be a lot of fun. And then we could even get answers like from guests that are watching the show, like watching it live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just want to do it so bad now.
See, you got to get that set and ready to go for your next event.
Yep. Do you have any other questions, Marianne?
I always have more questions. You should know that. All right.
I didn't know how long you wanted the show to be. I feel bad because I just talk and talk.
No, we'll be fine. So,
okay.
So what is your number one tip for new ghost hunters? Somebody just coming out of the gate.
That's you stumped me.
That never happens.
I've helped a lot of teams get started, to be honest.
I know.
Back when I had a team, like people that were on my team would branch out into their own. I'm all for that. It's great. I don't know. One of my favorite sayings is keep it real, and that's the only thing I can say. For paranormal teams, don't get arrogant, don't get cocky. Be respectful when you're out there investigating. You don't have to be a loudmouth, swearing at the ghost type person. Have fun with it, because I don't care, and don't get insulted if somebody doesn't believe your evidence, I guess. Do it for you. Don't do it for anybody else. If you're going into it for scientific reasons, that's awesome too. Like, it just depends on the group and what they're doing it for. Some people just want to go and do it to have fun. Some want to do it to try to prove that, there's existence after life. Some just, I don't know.
Well, I think you got some pretty good ones in there.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's just be yourself and just be nice, be kind. My daughter's favorite phrase is be humble and kind.
So what's one thing that you think that people usually do wrong when they're ghost hunting? Or is there nothing that they can do wrong?
I got one. No, I got one. They can't sit still. I always tell people, when you're going to go out investigating, and I'll tell new groups this, and I will repeat it over and over again to them, and they still do it. We have cameras in the building. We can see you. Okay. We don't watch you all the time. We don't stare at the cameras. We do it more. It's more security reasons. Make sure you're not doing anything wrong in the areas that we can see you. But I'll tell people, hey, listen, it's like hunting deer. You're not going to hear anything if you're just gabbing away the entire time. If you're asking for EVPs and you're nonstop talking, you're not going to hear any EVPs. You don't have to be dead silent. You don't have to be like super quiet and very stern, but sit still. Sit down for a while. You don't have to stay in one spot for, but at least I'd say 15, 20 minutes, give it anywhere you go. Sit down, relax, listen, get used to your environment, introduce yourself, get them comfortable with you, and you're more likely to have a lot of stuff. And what I will say, and I'm like, shut your flashlights off too, because that's my number one pet peeve. If you're there at night, investigating at night, and you've got flashlights on, your eyes are not adjusting to the dark. So you're looking at other people's flashlights, you're shining them in other people's eyes. Their pupils are shrinking. And then when you shut the lights off and you're looking around, you're not going to see as much. You're not going to see that shadow peeking out of a doorway at you or walking down the hall. So shut your flashlights off. Sit down and be quiet for a little while. Then you can get a little silly, talk to them, have fun with them. Like you said, you played music. We do that a lot. We've danced, But if you want to get some evidence, you got to kind of be quiet for a little while. Calm down and shut your flashlights off. And in Hillview, I'm not speaking for every building, we have exit signs in the hallways that you don't even need flashlights unless you're walking down stairwells or going in rooms. So shut them off. Get used to the dark. Nothing's going to hurt you. And nothing's going to get you any easier with or without your flashlight on,
Yeah, that's more like a little security blanket.
It is. It's definitely, and trust me, I carry a flashlight too, and I've turned it on when I've gotten scared. Like, you'll see a shadow coming up the hallway at you. It gets to the point where you just can't take it anymore, so you'll, quick turn your flashlight on to see, is this a person or is this a shadow? And it's gone. But I'm not waving my flashlight around and getting up. We'll all be sitting, there'll be a group of us, 3, 4 of us sitting in a hallway. And if one person gets up when we're getting evidence and starts walking around, it ruins it. It just ruins it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, just, I guess, have patience. And don't go into a building expecting to get slapped in the face by a ghost. Don't expect to walk into a building and see a full-bodied apparition wearing a nightgown or whatever. Go in just expecting, just to maybe hear a voice, get an EVP. Don't go in expecting the best when you probably aren't going to get something that crazy right away. And expect to go to buildings more than once, because I'm so lucky, and I am. I'm very blessed to be able to be in one location all the time. I don't go out investigating very often, but we get stuff in our office constantly. So just we can go stunt in our office if we want to. We don't have to go out. So I am very lucky to be able to be in the same building all the time. But for new people, go to the same locations more than once. Because if it's dead one day, you might go back another day and hit the jackpot. People have seen full-bodied apparitions at Hillview. They've seen full-bodied shadows. Just in my things that have happened to me, I've been poked, I've been tapped. I was tapped on the arm really hard one time. I've had my name whispered in my ear. I've been yelled at. I was pushed one time. One time at Hillview before I started managing it, and I'm not going to go into detail on how or why, but I blame a couple of the people that were there. They were doing things they shouldn't have been doing, and asked me to hold something that they were doing, and I held it for them, and I got pushed down the steps. Just 3 steps. But I didn't get pushed. I got thrown. I actually skipped over the steps and got slammed into a corner.
Wow.
And like I said, I do not, that was the only time that's the worst and only bad thing that's ever happened to me at Hillview. And that was before I started managing it. And there were people there that I did not like, and things that we don't allow to do now. No Ouija boards, no seances, no mumbo jumbo. What's there is there. You're coming in to investigate what's already there.
So
hey, are you guys getting snow yet?
Who do you think the best investigators are? Men or women? Or do you think there's no difference?
I don't think there's a difference. I will tell you that there's more women than men. And women seem to have more guts than men and seem to be braver. Now, I'm not saying all of them. There's a lot of really brave guys out there that will walk around that building by themselves, but there's a lot of women that do that too. For instance, like, we've had a group of 2 women book that entire place for themselves twice now, and they separate. They don't stay together all night. I admire them so much because I could not do that. No way. No way. But I love when they come because they get some really good stuff. I really don't think it's a difference between who's better, men or women. I want to know, I'd say children. Children are better than adults. The children that have come to Hillview, and we do allow kids on private investigations, and the children just tend to really, they're not as, I can't even explain it. They are just very, I've had groups of teenagers, like young teenagers, come in with 1 parent or 2 parents and thinking, oh, this is going to be insane. And they're more well behaved and more serious about it than a lot of adults I've seen come in.
I could see that.
You deal with children all the time, Marianne. You've probably seen them at their best and at their worst. But the kids,
yeah, I have.
I just love the kids when the kids are there.
Yeah, we've had a couple of kids on some of our tours, but we really honestly don't get many under 18. I think we've had maybe a 12-year-old and a 16-year-old a couple times, but they definitely are more into paying attention to what's going on and looking for evidence. They want to have experiences.
Paying attention, yes.
And so they're more willing to pay attention to what's going on around them. And some of the adults, they just
connect.
I don't know why they even come.
I know. They like, I don't know. Some of them, they just don't shut up either. Like, they're talking the whole time or... the worst time is around October because you're getting thrill seekers. You're not getting actual investigators. They just want to come in and get scared. And I can't tell you how many times we've had people come in drunk, and I'm like, not totally drunk, but you can smell it on them.
Yeah, but that's a big no-no. You don't investigate. You don't drink when you investigate.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to be under the influence, period, because if you do run into something, I think that's malevolent, I guess is what you want to call. I don't want to ever say evil, but a spirit that's not so friendly. I think you're more vulnerable if you're under the influence of stuff.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. But you also run the risk of, depending on what you're on, you could have an experience that was strictly induced by the alcohol or the drugs.
Oh, yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, and you can also get hurt a lot easier because you're not fully aware of your surroundings, and you could trip over things and fall down steps. We had one woman there that I had to kick her out. I don't remember her name, and I don't care to know her name, but as the night went on, she slowly started getting worse and worse to the point where she was actually like eating people's food off the table and picking stuff up off the floor and shoving people's belongings in her purse. We got it all on tape. She pulled somebody's shirt after she ate like this cheese log. She like shoved it in her mouth and then was pulling somebody's shirt out of one of their bags and with her mouth and got cheese all over. Oh, it was bad. She was on something. She looked possessed. It was scary. I know she wasn't possessed because she slowly got worse throughout the night, and her sister was there, and she was apologizing up and down. She was outside screaming on the phone. Her sister, told us that she did drugs. So they had to leave. We had to kick them out.
Wow.
So, yeah, if you're going to come on an investigation, don't bring somebody you can't trust either.
That's another good tip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because if you've got a friend that likes to drug it up or get plastered, don't let them do it before they come. And don't bring children that are scared to death. I had one group one time bring a child, and they didn't want to leave. He was scared to death. He didn't want to go back out in the building. They left him in the break room by himself.
Oh, no.
And he was scared of there. I went over and I took him and I brought him over and let him watch cartoons and stuff on our and that was where one of the rules came. You can never leave a child unattended.
You would think that would just be common sense.
You would think that you would be surprised how many rules I've had to create because of people.
I have the same thing at school with my kids. I have the safety rules, and we go through them, and sometimes they're like, "That is the stupidest rule ever. How could somebody be that dumb?" I'm like, that we make rules because somebody did something stupid. That's why we have rules. So, it's just a lot of times you just think it would be common sense, but for some people, it's not.
Some people just don't have common sense.
You're right. I don't like to talk ill of people, but
I'm stating facts. I'm just simply stating facts.
Okay, I will tell you. I mean, with the job that I do, and I'm sure, Marianne, you do the same thing. Anybody that has a job probably does this. But I'll get a question. Okay, I'll get a phone call, and it will be something that's plastered all over the website, and I'll be like, "I was just on your website, and I couldn't find this answer," and I'm like biting my lip. I'm biting my lip, like, ooh, and I want to yell at them so bad.
I know. Yep.
But I'm like, oh, well, it's just right here. And, just look here. Or, it's like the simplest, most common sense things. Mm-hmm. For instance, I just recently got an email and they said, "Hi, my name's so-and-so. Is Hillview Manor haunted? Is haunted Hillview Manor haunted?" How do I answer that? No. I actually didn't answer that one because I think it might have been a practical joke, but I get calls, and then I've had calls from people. I had a call one time that she didn't want to come to Hillview. She had nothing to do with Hillview. She saw us on a show, and she called to talk to me about, and she was drunk. She was either drunk or on something, and she called to talk to me about things that happened in her house. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like the fan above her stove, like the exhaust fan rattling. And I'm like, everything she was saying, it was just like, come on. It's like, and I was trying to be nice to her,
No, we've all been there. Marianne, you You walk a line with those people.
Yeah. And it's hard to be nice and so, you hang up the phone and then whoever's in the room with you, you're like, well, I don't want to start swearing, but you're swearing and you're like, I can't believe this. I can't take this anymore. I can't do it. How can people be like that?
Yep.
Yeah.
That happens to all of us.
Oh. But of course, the good people, and like I said, it's only the 1% that make you smack your head, but the rest of them make it worth it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we're running up against the clock. Rochelle, I can't thank you enough for being on our first guest on to ParaDivas. You've told us mind-blowing stories, wonderful stories, fantastic stories. I cannot wait to get to Hillview Manor.
I can't wait for you to come.
I've been trying to get her to come out east for, how many years have I known you now? Like 3 or 4 years, and she still hasn't made it over here yet, so.
It's not that easy, okay? I understand, because I have friends that were over on the West Coast that want me to come there, and I have never been over that direction.
Well,
I get it.
And that's, makes it a little hard because that's the other side of the country.
Yeah, I know. It's not cheap. It's not easy. I know.
It's a long flight, or you have a layover, you have a connecting flight in Denver or somewhere, and I almost made it to Eric's Bigfoot camping adventure. Almost. I mean, I almost had that airline ticket bought, and I was going to do it solo, just by myself, do this flight. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't, because it would have ended up being a total of, I want to say 5 or 6 hours flying. And I can't do it.
I hear you. The furthest I ever went was Arkansas for a ghost hunt. And although I had a blast there, I don't think I would ever go that far again. It was just too expensive.
If I could take a train or drive, and had indisposable time and cash, I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Well,
I think we all would.
Train ride.
Yeah. So, yeah. Indispensable time and cash. That exists.
I don't think we ever mentioned where Haunted Hillview Manor is located. What's the city it's located in?
Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
Newcastle?
And you can get to the website, hauntedhillviewmanor.com. We also have a Facebook page. It's just Hillview Manor, and it says the official page after it.
Marianne, thank you so much. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say we have an evidence page, too. It's like a group on our Facebook page. But go ahead.
I'll have to check that out. I was just going to say thank you to Marianne for booking such an awesome guest, especially our first one. This is broke the backboard with this one. Good job.
Aww, thank you. This was fun. I'd have to say this is one of the more fun ones I've been on.
Aww.
Yep. Yeah,
so that's because it was all girl talk.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
My dear.
It was nice and relaxed. Yeah, we had a blast.
You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. Anytime you want me. Yep.
Well,
just let me know.
Yeah, we'll take you up on it for sure. Because I know that you've got more, like you said, hours of stories. And
oh yeah, I do.
And I'd love to hear them. I think you're a fantastic woman. So you go, girl.
Thank you. So are you guys. You guys are awesome. And Marianne knows how I feel about her. I just love her to death.
Aww.
How can you not?
Well, when I first started at Hillview, their group, we worked together on things, and they put up with a lot because I'm not just going to go into detail, but they put up with a lot from us. Not me in general, but, Hillview itself and the events, and they took losses on stuff. So they're just awesome people. You and Sean, I just love you guys.
Well, we love you too. You're awesome to work with. We love working with you all the time, and we can't wait till a couple weeks from now when we get to hang out at Conneaut together.
I know.
And
I think I'm going to stay Friday. I think just because
we're going to be there.
I'm going to book Friday and Saturday. Yeah. If you're staying both nights, I think I'm going to book a night for Friday night too.
All right.
Yeah,
sounds like a plan. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And had a great time.
Indeed.
Awesome.
And tune in for our next episode Thursday, May 3rd. And until the next episode, stay scared.